Hi there, this is Erin Cooney. Thanks so much for joining me today on the Irish Dance Business Owners Podcast. Today I am joined by Niamh Webster. She is the owner and director of Nog Irish Dance, and today we're going to explore the topic of having your own children as your students. So welcome, Niamh, to the podcast.
Hi, Erin. Thanks for having me. This is great.
I'm so excited to have you here today. I think that this topic is going to be really interesting. So before we dive into that, I just wanted to get an idea of how you got into Irish dance. What did your teaching journey look like? And how did you start this Irish dance school?
Oh, that is a story and a half. Definitely. So I am the third of seven when it comes to children in my family. We're a good Irish Catholic family. And when my oldest sister was in grade 9, so she's about 14 years old, she started to get into kind of some mischief. Let's just call it mischief for now. And so my parents decided that one of the ways to combat this was to put her into something. So what they decided to do, they said, okay, I know we're Irish. My dad was born in Ireland. We're going to do Irish dancing. And why not just put 3 of our girls into it all at once? So that's what they did. So Nuala and me and Roisin jumped into Irish dance, and a year later she quit, continued on the other route she was taking, and my next sister joined. So there's 3 of us. And then a few years after that, my brothers wanted to join dance and my sisters stopped. So again, there was 3 of us. And by this time I was driving to dance and my parents weren't coming anymore. And then one day my neighbor said, hey, I have 2 little girls that really want to start dancing. Can you teach them in my living room? And I said, okay. And I think I was about 14 or 16 years old. So I started teaching in the living room, and it was better than babysitting. And then my friend in high school, a friend of mine, her mother was working for the Board of Education. And they were trying to grab a whole bunch of my friends' friends to teach different things. So one of them did volleyball class, one of them did cross country meeting for running. And they said, can you do an Irish dance course? And I said, yeah, sure. And it just exploded. So this is back in probably 97. So this is just after Riverdance in 94 came out. So it exploded. It was huge. And then when I turned 20, I got my TC, and I believe I was the youngest in North America at the time to have my TC, which is pretty cool. And so that's how I started. And then that was in Ontario. And a few years later, 10 years later, I was on 4 different locations, 5 days a week. And then my family up and moved to Nova Scotia, me and my husband and our 2 kids. And I started all over right from scratch. And so 12 years later now, I am here in this beautiful studio, and we have 1 location, and we're 5 days a week and doing great and being strong and loving it.
Wow, I love that. And I love that you shared that you started again from scratch, because I think that is a journey people need to know and can be inspired by, because it does happen. It also happened to me. You know, sometimes when you start an Irish dance school and you're really young, circumstances can change and you need or want to move for a different reason, and navigating that journey. That is a whole other story and a whole other podcast.
Whole other 3 podcasts. Yes, like, for sure.
Navigate that journey of moving and starting from scratch again.
Yeah. Not everybody's cup of tea, but.
And you're truly not starting from scratch again, because you learned so much the first time.
That's true. Yeah, that's very
awesome. True. So now we're going to just kind of dive into the main topic for today. And you have children who dance. So you actually have, is it 4 children?
I have 4 children total, but only 3 of them dance. So okay. 14 and 12 are girls that dance. My 10-year-old boy will have nothing to do with dance.
Oh, okay.
And then my 6-year-old girl is here more than she wants to be. She can't be here more than she wants to be. Wait. Anyway, she wants to be here all the time, basically. Wants to be here all the time.
Okay, so your 3 girls dance. So of your children, your 3 girls dance. Okay, under you and under your school. And yeah, that's just the topic that we wanted to explore a little bit. You know, you teaching with them being young, and then them wanting to join and pursuing this for a longer journey.
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey. And I always say everybody's journey is quite unique. So nobody's going to have the exact same story. And every child was unique too, because even my son, who doesn't dance now, he did at one time, and we had to let that go. So I started the first couple kids were very young and I was really young. So they would come with me and I didn't take any time off. So I had my first baby and 3 weeks later, I wanted to be back in the classroom. Ended up being 5 because I had issues. But so she came with me and I was in 4 different locations at the time. So I would have my diaper bag and my dance bag and my big speakers because we didn't have these fancy, cute little things back then. We had massive speakers and I would have to carry all this in and I'd have a stroller so she could fall asleep. And it was definitely challenging, but I did a lot of holding. And this one, she didn't like to be held in. She liked to be held out. And then we put her on the floor and I put blankets down. And nursing was really, I really liked nursing teaching because the other kids would come up and, what are you doing? Well, I'm nursing. What is that? Oh, it's giving milk to my baby. Oh. And it was a learning experience because a lot of them had never seen that before. So that was very cool. Anyway, the first 2 kids did not have a playpen. And I would say this is something that I learned that is crucial to have as a playpen. I did have them fall asleep on the floor. I have a great, beautiful picture of my 18-month-old girl just like on the floor in hard shoes going all around her, which is gorgeous. But then she'd get up and she'd crawl everywhere. So it's not great. So I was like, playpen, get a playpen, put it in a studio, even carry it up those stairs wherever you're going, because then your child will get used to that playpen, even at a young age, so that as they get older and they want to move, they'll stay in the playpen. So that's what I did with my second 2 kids. I brought the playpen. I also had a sling, so I would wear the sling and I could move around and dance in the sling, which is quite impressive apparently to be able to dance in a sling. So anyway, they get older and they're no longer babies and then they can stay home for a bit and then they want to take class, or of course we want them to take class with us. So as my kids got older and they started to come to class with me to learn, there were some scheduling things and my husband had to come pick up things. Those are logistics. One of the trickiest parts though was for them to learn the boundary of being a student and being the daughter or the son. And that was hard, but they learned really quickly. I found that they learned quite quickly because they want your time and they want your attention and you have to give it to them. So for me, I found that they learned very quickly that I was giving Susie attention for the time of stories and Bob the attention and my own child the attention. And they start to see that it becomes the same. So that's really important, I think, to show them right away that they are the same and to try not to have any favorites in the classroom, which is very tricky to do at first, but they do learn that quickly. I'd say by the time they're like 6, if they've danced for 2 years with you, they've got it. And even if they jump in at 6, they'll probably get it pretty quickly. There's expectations also need to be the same. So you can't expect your own child to dance exactly like you. You can't expect them to be the best in the class because they might not be. And you can't expect them to love it just because you love it. So my son did it for like a year or 2, and it was this tiny toes class, like a little preschool class. And he's like, I hate this, Mom. I want to stop. So I had to coax him with a cookie for 1 more month. I'm like, 1 more month, I'll give you cookies because we just have 1 more. And he's like, okay, but now not a fan. But one of the other things you have to let them do is actually be silly in the class like the other classmates. So if there's times when they're laughing, you have to just let them do that and have that. Just because you're a kid, you still have to let them have that time. When I was a kid, my dad was my soccer coach. So I remember this very distinctly. I was 4 years old and I would go to soccer with my dad and he was the coach and he'd bring oranges in his little bucket and he'd say, now Niamh, on the soccer field, I'm Mr. Myers. I was like, but Dad, you're my dad. No, I'm Mr. Myers. And it was really weird. So I would call him Mr. Myers and it was fine. But then the kids would come over to me. Why are you calling your dad Mr. Myers? I'm like, I don't know, but they told me. That's weird. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It's weird. So I found that is a boundary that you need to kind of keep. Let your kids call you mom if you're comfortable with that. I found for me, it really worked better because the other students, they know that that's your kid. They know it's your kid and they see you're treating them the same. but it is weird when you call them something different. So for me, it's always worked. And this might not work for everybody, but for me, that's something that really worked, is to keep them say mom, because at class, you're your teacher first, but you're still their mom. And then again, the same goes for at home. So when you go home and your kids are dancing, my kids are constantly moving around their feet. It's so beautiful. You have to be mom first. So you can't sit there and go, oh, no, that's wrong. No, pick up your feet. No, would you turn out more? Like, you need to just let them dance. This is my opinion. You need to. I know, like, you need to, but really, it's helpful for them to just let them be kids and you be a mom. And then your beautiful words are, I love to watch you dance. And it's very simple. I do remember, though, it's funny because you also have this beautiful reward and this unique, gorgeous connection with your kids, because my daughter was lying down in bed one day. I'm like, go to sleep, okay, good night. She was probably about 9 years old. And her feet were moving in bed. And she's like, and I say, Aoife, stop doing your treble jig. She's like, how did you know it was my treble jig? So those are really, really beautiful, special moments that you can have with your children. So there's a lot of rewards to the balance of teaching your own kids. So another thing that's quite the balance is when you're in class, and especially I'm finding this now more that my kids are getting older and they're teenagers. Hey, mom, when we get home tonight, can we have ice cream? I'm like, oh, come off it. Like, that is not a question right now. So, but I didn't respond like that. So just gentle reminders like, well, that is a question for the car on the way home. And so there's that balance. There's also the balance of keeping surprises. And I do find this as I get older. I know I still have a 6-year-old, but over here, and I have beautiful certificates to go out to the kids who earned this traditional set challenge. And these certificates are gorgeous. And I'm going to give them in person in 3 weeks. We have an event, which is great. And my kids know they're here because they saw them come in the mail. They're like, oh, what do they look like? I want to see. No. So keeping some surprises for your own children. And I feel like even though they don't like it, they're like, but I'm your daughter. Come on, show me. Even though they don't like it, they do appreciate being the same as their peers. Because if you're the teacher and you're their child, and your other students know that there's that connection. They know that it is what it is. But to give your own kids the surprises at the same time as your regular students are getting them, it helps the whole classroom. It really helps not just your own students feel like they're the student, but it helps the other students see that you're not treating your own kids with any kind of special attention. And I think that's really important for retention in your studio, for moving forward, especially in these times, because one day you're not going to have your own kids to fall back on either. And you need to build that retention and have people know that you're treating everybody the same. I think that's really important. So those surprises, keeping them from that is the fun part of the things you keep back. But there's some other things as the kids get older that you have to keep back. There's admin things, tuition stuff, drama between students, drama between parents. Unfortunately, that does happen. And sometimes you have to put out those fires as an admin and as a director. So I'll talk to my husband, how do you think this? But I have to make sure that I don't have lingering ears, which is also important for your kids to not know some of the stuff that goes on in the studio that is the admin side. I mean, some things they need to know, which is a good thing for them to learn about entrepreneurship and business ownership. These are very beautiful things. But some things they don't need to know because they are children and they need to allow that innocence. So yeah. Oh, it's very exciting. I just have one more thing to share with you that I can think of off the top of my head. And then if you have any questions, Erin, I'd love to go further with that. But one thing they learn very, very quickly is how to be independent with getting on their wigs and getting on their shoes and getting ready for shows and competition. When you go to a show or competition as a dance teacher, this dance teacher hat we have on, we are there to help everybody and tell them the order of the show and get your music ready. We usually have to talk to whoever it is that is putting, like, if it's St. Patrick's Day and you're at a senior's home, for example, you're talking to the coordinator there, making sure the change room is right, making sure that like, yes, thank you for the water. Oh, could you please give us some water? Or whatever is going on. There's a lot of different things. Your kids have to get ready and you can't be mommy. And it is very tricky. So they have to learn very quickly to do it themselves or to ask people for help. And this is not a bad thing. I think this is a very, very good thing to learn that independence and also to be able to ask for help. And it builds community in your studio so that other parents will help and other kids will help. It doesn't always go as smoothly as that though. All right. So a little quick story. We were at a competition a few years ago and it was one of my daughters was 9 and she had a meltdown. She did not like her wig. She was like, nope, I don't like this and I don't like this. So I had to turn into mommy right away. And so I went from teacher, coach to mom, and I just had to be with her. And the first time this happened, because it's happened a few times, it was really difficult for me to let go of that teacher coaching side. But I did learn that you have to do that for your daughter and you have to be there for her, and other people will take over and help the other kids, and all works out. So it is really quite a beautiful thing. And there's so many rewards and benefits to teaching your own children. And it's such a journey. My 6-year-old, who I didn't touch on yet, she's 6. And in September, I said to her, because I knew she really loved dance, I said, Siobhan, this year, you're going to dance 2 days a week. She burst into tears. Mom, I don't want to do 2 days a week. I'm like, okay, no problem. You can just do one. That's fine. She goes, I want to do 3.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So she did 3 days a week. And then through some other circumstances, it worked out as I kind of needed another kid in a different class. I said, hey, Siobhan, you want to do 4? Yes, I do. So she's dancing 4 and she's 6. And so what she is learning is how not to be too boastful about that, have some humility, because she is doing 4 days a week. Most of her peers only do 1 because they're so young. She can be boastful. I'm doing 4 days. I already have that step. She and I are having some conversations about how to respect where other people are. And this is also a really beautiful point for learning and growth. And yeah, there's just so much you can do when you teach your children. And I love it. It's such a journey that I love and I will miss, because in a few years, that part it will be over.
Yeah.
How weird is that?
Yeah. Right. It goes.
Yeah. Yeah. So Erin, that is the journey.
And I love that you talked about when she wasn't happy with her wig and you just needed to kind of be there for her as a mom emotionally, to kind of just be with her, because that was going to be one of my questions. Is usually the emotional piece that I see in students where they need a parent in the room is after a performance or after a competition. And it could be like the real high highs, like they did amazing job and they want that hug from their parent, or they want that high five, from their parent, or whatever, they're kind of looking for that support from their parent. And then there's the opposite side, which, it's the tears. There's the, I didn't do as well as I thought I would. I messed up, and just kind of like, how you can be there. Have you ever navigated bringing another family member along, or have you always kind of just stepped into that and been like, well, I need to be mom right now?
I feel like for us, one of the values here at Tierna Nog is community and family. And that's one of the feedback I get a lot, is that we feel like family, which is really nice. We're very lucky to have that. And so when we go to a show or a competition, parents are always around. And the other benefit to having your kids dance is that your kids become friends with their peers in dance. And so even if you're not like bringing another family in the car with you, they know each other so well and so intimately that they jump in. And as a parent, this is very cool, because you know your kids' friends so well. Yeah. As teachers, as dance teachers, we see the same kids weekly for years.
Yeah.
It's very different than seeing it daily in a classroom for 1 year. And a lot of the times we see our kids, our dance kids, like 2 days a week for for years. So we get to know them quite well, which is really a beautiful thing.
So say that someone kind of has that dream to like someday when they have their family, they love the idea of their child dancing up on that performance stage someday and being able to share their love of Irish dance with their own children. Is there anything that you would tell that person?
Well, I think the first thing is get a playpen. I know I talked about that already, but I think that's really important because you get to be with your children and they are immersed in the music during that time, which is really good. I'd say one of the biggest things is just to remember that they are their own person. And so if they don't want to dance, they don't have to dance. If they don't have the same turnout as you, that's okay. I'd say the other thing is take your time. Don't push them too hard. I remember when my oldest was 6, I learned that the Worlds was going to be in Canada in like 3 years. I'm like, yes, we're going. She's going to be good enough. We're going to go to the Worlds. No. That did not happen. And that's okay. And so just slow down and take it one day at a time and really learn about what your child loves to do and let them do that. And if dance is it, then try to balance and be immersed in it as best you can.
One final question for you. So if someone's listening and they have a toddler right now and they're wondering at what point would I have them actually get involved in a regular class, a regular weekly class. What did that look different for you for every child, or was there a certain age where you proposed the question to them, or did you just kind of like enroll them and see if they liked it?
Erin, that's a really awesome question. I really do love that. So, because it was different for every single child. So for my first one, she really just wanted to come with me. She's like, I want to come. And so I think she was 3.5. And I said, okay, you're coming. And she started class. And it's kind of similar with the next girl. We waited a little longer. Actually, with the next one, we waited until she was 4. And then with my son, I started a preschool class. And then with my last girl, I do have a preschool class. So she started with that age group. So I would say like it depends on your school. That's the biggest thing. And then it depends on your child. So if your child really, really wants it and they're 3 and 4 and hopping around and really, really wants to go and you don't have a preschool class, then try it. Why not? If they're not loving it and you don't have a preschool class, then just wait. Just wait until they're a little older. But if you have a preschool class, I say just go for it.
I thought that was my last question, but I think this is. So was there any point along the journey, maybe initially or later on, where you did actually teach them some steps from home in your house? Or has it always been that they were enrolled in class?
Oh dear. Well, that's hilarious. I try not to. Because as I said earlier, I try to really keep that boundary of home life and keeping the teacher head like that. There has been times when they would do a step in the kitchen and over make the same mistake. So I say, okay, just so you know, you're actually on the wrong foot there. Okay.
And some coaching in your kitchen.
Yeah, I don't like doing it. I feel if I did too much coaching at home, I feel like they wouldn't want to be part of the community here. And I feel like I was pushing it too much on them and I'd like them to just love it.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
they do. So that's really, really fun to hear.
Yeah, they're fun.
All right. Well, this has been amazing. I love just everything that you've shared. And I think it's going to be really helpful for people that want to support their child in any way that they can on the Irish dance journey if they choose that. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It was really great interviewing you.
Well, thanks, Erin, for having me. This was a lot of fun. Great to meet you. And I mean, I could talk about kids all day. So thanks very much.
Yes, we have so many other topics we can talk about in the future. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.